Pastor Sam Midget, student pastor from First Baptist Concord.
Absolutely. Let's pray. Father God, I just pray for your blessing on our time and our meeting tonight. We thank you that we live in a country and a community of freedom. Father, I pray for our leaders that you would guide them as they seek to guide others, that you would give them clarity and vision and direction for our community. I thank you for their willingness to both serve and lead, a model of leadership that you displayed through your Son. I pray for our community, Father, that we would be a united community, a community that is known for the thing that you would have your followers be known for, and that's that we love others as greater than ourselves. And I ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next will be the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the adoption of this meeting's posted agenda?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Are there any changes?
No, sir.
None. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say yes.
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 Okay, the motion to adopt the agenda as posted for this meeting has been approved. Okay, for the mayor's report. What? Yeah, sure. The mayor has nothing to report, but we'll yield the floor to the vice mayor.
I don't have anything to report, but I did want to welcome John Schoonmaker to our 5th district representative, Knox County. It's always good to see you here. I assume you're here also to speak to this. I appreciate you coming and updating us. I did a little bit of research today on that issue as well. So any clarity you could bring to the topic would be wonderful. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from any of the other aldermen?
I have nothing.
No, sir.
If not, then we'll move on to Citizens Forum. Do we have anyone signed up for that?
We do. John Schoonmaker is going to address the board.
Good. Okay, sir, if you don't mind stating your name and address, and we'll be ready.
I'm John Schoonmaker. I'm the Knox County Commissioner that has the privilege of representing the residents of the town of Farragut, as well as the 25,000 additional citizens that live in southwest Knox County. My address is 144 Tanrera Drive. I appreciate the opportunity this evening to update you on two issues that affect Farragut as far as from the Knox County side. The first is a road project that's going to take place basically from the Concord roundabout, which is just past where they're doing the new construction on Concord Road, and it will extend 2,000 feet to the west on the left-hand side or the south side of North Shore Drive. And what it is, it's a safety improvement that we're going to do. What happened this past summer, Knox County's had some additional funds left over from our previous budget year and some sales tax additional funds. So I was able to garner an appropriation of about $142,000 for a safety improvement on North Shore Drive. Basically what we're going to do is, in that section of road between the roundabout and the bridge, if you're going eastbound or away from Chodo going towards downtown, on the right-hand side of the road there's a nice little ditch there, which is obviously for drainage. The problem is a lot of folks who are heading towards downtown Knoxville per se, they're not paying too much attention, and they go off the road, hit that little culvert, and what they do is they overcorrect and then come into the oncoming traffic lane. So there's been some issues with some traffic accidents there. So in other words, really for the welfare of our citizens who live out there, this is going to be a great improvement. What we're basically going to do is put a culvert in for the 2,000 feet and then cover it over with earth so that if you do go off the road, it'll be a level plane. Now that's the good thing. Now the bad thing is that we have to close the eastbound portion of North Shore Drive between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. to be able to do the work. Work is expected to begin about February the 11th, barring any kind of severe weather events. So I just kind of want to let you know, because some of the citizens do commute that way back and forth, but it'll take about 8 days to complete the project, but it's one of those deals where it's worth the sacrifice for what the improvement's going to be made. So
Will the entire road be closed or just
no,
that
no,
lane?
just
So
that
there'll
lane.
be-
Just
there'll
one.
be-
It'll be a one-lane road. So,
Okay.
yeah. So just have a little patience, but it'll be a big improvement. So, and
In the roundabout, won't it? How it'll back up?
well,
It could.
it could. Yeah.
John, let me ask you, because at the last meeting, Commissioner, oh crud, what's his name?
We only have 11.
At-large
Oh,
Commissioner.
Larson J.
Yes, that he proposed a project along North Shore Drive. I know that that's separate from this.
Yes.
In doing this project, can you prep for the possibility for that project to take place?
No, we can't at this point because we've only funded the actual road work. We did not fund any additional money, and it has to go allocated just for engineering and public works as opposed to the Parks Department.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That
Okay.
is it.
And that, we'll see how that plays out. It's, if you listen to the meeting, it
Yeah.
didn't sit well.
Well,
But it
with
would have been a
some-
great improvement for
Yes.
anybody who lives towards the Chodo area.
Well,
North Shore Drive.
particularly the part that he was talking about feeding into Concord, because once you get that, you're open to all of the transportation network of Farragut. So the more they can work on that is going to bring a lot more people to a place where they can start having pedestrian circulation systems. So
Yeah.
I was really excited to see it, but yes, I know.
It's a great
Yeah.
proposal, and the mayor supported it, but
I know.
it takes
I understand.
7 votes to pass.
Yes.
The other issue I wanted to bring to your attention, and I left a copy in front of you, the chairman of the Knox County Commission, Hugh Nystrom, has presented a resolution to basically ask the Tennessee legislature to do away with the growth plan either for the entire state or to carve it out specifically just for Knox County. Now, 20 years ago, that is when actually state law mandated that all counties in Tennessee have a growth plan to designate what areas were going to be residential, rural, agricultural, and so forth. There was a growth policy coordinating committee that, in fact, Commissioner Hill actually served on representing, former Commissioner Hill served on representing the town of Farragut. It was a lengthy 2-year process, and everything was divided up, and it's been in place ever since, but there's a 20-year time period that has to be renewed. Well, you may all have your individual opinion, and I'd like to know what that is prior to our meeting on Monday afternoon. But basically, in my opinion, that because it's a document that combines not only Knox County, the town of Farragut, but also the city of Knoxville, if you're going to eliminate the growth plan, it's 3 players involved. It would have to be the 3 legislative bodies being able to sign off on that. So there was a lot of discussion at our work session this past Tuesday night. It was added to the agenda, so it's something that we didn't have for, in advance. But you may want to kind of discuss it in your meetings tomorrow. So I just kind of want to present it and say, hey, this is what's coming down the pike. I don't know if there's enough votes to go forward, but if you have a personal opinion or want to talk to Chairman Nystrom about this resolution that he's authored, you're welcome to do so. Or is there any questions at this point?
John, I was just curious, has Commissioner Nystrom shared the purpose of this proposal, like what he's planning on
Somewhat.
achieving?
What the frustration has been, particularly in the high-growth areas like Hardin Valley, because a lot of that land 20 years ago was designated as basically rural residential, it limited the density of the number of housing units that you could put on those properties. And the maximum was 3 dwelling units per acre. The elected officials in that area want to have that enlarged to the 5 or 6 dwelling units per acre, so they can put obviously more homes in. But anyways, and they can't do it because the growth plan says the maximum 3. If you want to develop that property, that's what you can do. So the whole idea is to increase the amount of residential lots, plus also take some of the commercial areas that weren't commercial 20 years ago and now make those commercial along some of the corridors out there.
I get the impression that I think it would be better served if we actually updated the growth policy plan and didn't just do away with it altogether. I'm concerned about, I know part of this, I don't know if it's part of this law, but we have that joint economic development through the Knox Corporation. What is that? That does all the parks. The
Industrial Development Board?
Yeah. We have a joint economic development committee that we are required to have someone sit on that, and of course Mayor Williams has been attending that. My understanding is that that was part of all of this, and does that go away?
It affects every square inch of Knox County, including the town and the city of Knoxville. So, you know, I'm kind of the opinion that you shouldn't throw something out unless you already have something to replace it in hand. The problem is you can't just form a growth policy coordinating committee, have a decision done in 30 days, and then you move on. This is going to be a long, drawn-out process because every entity has to weigh in on how they want the growth of their territory to be. And
I'm not sure that that wouldn't be a bad idea, since the last time we did this was 20 years ago and things have changed. What's the word I'm trying to think of? The delineation of groups of people, that's changing. What people are looking for is changing. We should be looking at the whole of Knox County. I don't think it would be a bad idea for us to all work together again. I know there is some concern, and we don't necessarily have a dog in that fight. Well, we might, because there's an opportunity. If a developer gets a piece of land they decide they want to annex into the city of Knoxville or the town of Farragut, they can apply and ask for that before they build the houses. Is that an opportunity that they have? And then you have your... See, these are questions
Yes.
that aren't answered, so I think that I'm concerned that this is very premature. We don't understand all the ramifications, and it really does need to be a conversation, not just with the county commission, but with the city of Knoxville and the town of Farragut. We really need to understand what this actually means, because it's not just about them being able to put more density. That might be the reason why they're pursuing this, but that's not going to be the end result. There's going to be other issues that we don't know about.
Exactly. And I agree with you. I think all 3 entities have to be involved in a decision. So again, it's 7 people on commission have to vote for or against it. But I think the whole idea is to have it kind of rush through now was because of the legislation session that they have to file that before the deadline in February.
Yeah.
So when is the deadline?
The deadline for bill submission is noon on February 7th.
So we don't have to give an answer by Tuesday. We've got a little bit of time.
Well, by Monday, the commission's going to vote.
They're voting.
Up or down.
But we don't have to vote, and I mean, we don't have to come up with a...
No, but it'd be nice if I could
Yeah, I
maybe
understand.
present your point, or if you all want to present your point to commission on Monday evening.
I agree, though. It's a little premature I mean, I don't know enough about it that I could sit here and debate it or argue it one way or the other. I'd like a little more time. So
Well, even from the purpose of, if there are ramifications from getting rid of this, can we address those particular issues and make sure that those are considered in whatever resolution. You might have an amended resolution. Okay, get rid of the growth policy plan, but keep these aspects in place. And that's my concern, is that we haven't, I'm not entirely sure that the county commissioners even understand all the ramifications.
I believe that's a correct statement.
I agree with Vice Mayor Pavlin. I am very disappointed in Commissioner Nystrom and the Knox County Law Director's Office for doing this without contacting us about this. I'm really disappointed in this right here.
Well, they pursued it last year, though, right, as well?
They tried, but they didn't really have the bill worded correctly, and then the presenter of the bill in the House had no idea what Public Chapter 1101 was about.
Okay.
So that hurt the whole cause. But
Okay.
if one of you was to ask my opinion,
What is your
Please.
opinion?
well,
that.
I think if we have to make, in 20 years from the date of the original agreement, I think we need to have the committee set up and make those decisions at that point. I don't think we need to rush to do something now when we're going to have to do something in, say, 18 months at the max. So, and the town of Farragut would have people that are, members of that committee that would give the input, and but we're going to have to do it. It's just, but I don't think we need to, within 10 days,
Yeah.
make a decision one
Yeah.
way or the other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you could relay to the commission chairman to postpone it, go forward with it, whatever. I'll be glad to take the message if you all talk about it further tomorrow. And
So maybe I attend those meetings.
okay, and then
so-
if you'd like to present that's fine, because
So we'll
I'm
work-
here
I'll
to
work with
represent
David.
you.
And we'll figure, we need to figure something out.
And then over the weekend, David can become an expert at Public Chapter 1101.
I already downloaded the growth policy plan, and, yeah.
Thank you. And I can also forward you a link to, kind of gives it's about a 40-page booklet that tells you, from a legislative standpoint, how to do for the growth plan. And it was put out by the Tennessee Commission on Intergovernmental Relations.
With Tasser?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be very helpful.
Yeah, that'd be
Yes,
helpful.
please.
I'll do that.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for going over the 5-minute time period.
Thank you, John.
John, appreciate it.
Any other? None. Okay, approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the posted January 10th, 2019 minutes?
No, sir.
None.
I'm going to move to approve.
Second.
Has everyone had a chance to review these minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, vote yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, the motion to approve the posted minutes is passed and will be recorded as official minutes of the January 10th, 2019 Farragut Board and Mayor Alderman meeting. Okay, business items. We have 4 business items on the agenda tonight. First will be the approval of the Town of Farragut Committee attendance policy, internal limits. And I think, just want to read it. Oh, Trevor, okay.
Good evening. The proposal before you deals with 2 components, essentially. The first being committee attendance, and second, term limits for committees. This proposal follows discussion that took place at the December 13th, 2018 workshop, where staff then prepared the following proposal. Regarding committee attendance, we've defined 2 attendance policies. Type 1 attendance policy specifies that a committee member's term expires on the 3rd absence during a fiscal year. And Type 2 policy specifies that a committee member's term expires on their 2nd absence during a fiscal year. And it is proposed that the following committees have a Type 1 attendance policy: the Arts and Beautification Committee, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Stormwater Advisory Committee, the Farragut Folklife Museum Committee, and the Visual Resources Review Board. And it is proposed that the following committees will have a Type 2 attendance policy: the Education Relations Committee, the Tourism and Visitor Advisory Committee, and the Parks and Athletics Council. Regarding term limits, it is proposed that where a committee has no term limit, that there be a term limit imposed, and where a committee has no term length, a term length be imposed. So it is proposed that the following committees have a 2-term limit: the Parks and Athletic Council, the Farragut Folklife Museum Committee, and the Arts and Beautification Committee. And by way of clarification, the Parks and Athletic Council and Folklife Museum Committee do not have a term length, and so it is proposed that they have a 2-year term. And because the Arts and Beautification Committee currently has a 2-year term, it is simply proposed that they have a 2-term limit. I'll answer any questions you have.
I want to make sure everybody on the board is aware that, well, first of all, I got to make a motion.
Okay.
Going to move to approve the committee attendance policies and term limits as amended.
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
Yeah, my comment was that Trevor handed out to us just prior to the meeting an updated copy of the information he just covered. So I want to make sure everybody has that.
Did you get this one? Was
I have this
did
one.
Scott have one too?
Is it a must-have?
Spot, just right before you sit down.
Oh, who knows? I probably threw it around here. So. All right,
Well, it
that's
has
fine.
this.
Okay.
The change where it went into effect July 1st, 2019, and this is, we had amended the Education Relations Committee in November, so this updated one shows all those changes plus this,
Okay.
these new changes.
Okay. Thank you.
I also want to discuss the Parks and Athletic Council Charter. I attended the meeting that the Parks Committee had last Tuesday, and not this Tuesday, but the previous Tuesday. And at that time, I had mentioned to the council that their committee or their council was going to remain intact, but we were looking at giving them more responsibility and more activities. And therefore, we were looking to change their meeting period from 4 times a year to possibly 12 times a year, monthly. Their current charter, before this one, said that they were to meet monthly, but had reduced their meetings to 4 meetings a year and then a few other as-needed type meetings. Some of the members of the committee council felt that there was a disconnect by not meeting more frequently, number one. And so I think by meeting monthly, there will be more interest. I think there will be more involvement. And I want to propose that if you look at the current charter that we have before us, not the current one, the proposed charter before us, on the second page it says meetings of the council will be held in January, June, August, and November of each year with called meetings as necessary during other months. I would like to change that to meetings of the council will be held monthly. And then down below the next paragraph, the term of any voting member will expire on the 3rd absence, since we're going to 12 meetings a year.
That would make us consistent, okay?
Would you consider, right now, because Education Relations meets every other month, and the visitor meets every other month, do you see a need right now that they need to meet monthly?
This goes into effect July.
Okay.
Okay, so they have a meeting, a special meeting scheduled for February.
Okay.
And they have a meeting for June already. So they're going to miss March, April, May. They're going to miss 3 months. But this goes into effect July 1st.
Okay.
And then they also have the option, every committee or council has the option of, if you don't have enough on the agenda for the following month, they can cancel a meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so I think this will work in nicely by changing it to monthly, and then we give them a 3-month period to kind of get organized. Then as we open up the community center and hopefully give them more activities and more responsibilities, I think this should build up to where everybody's satisfied.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions about that? And if we, oh, by the way, if we pass this back to what Trevor just read, it is proposed that the following committees will have type 2 attendance. The Parks and Athletics Council will have to move up to the type 1 verbiage.
Okay.
So I want to change the charter, and I also want to change the what is this? The term limits. I'm sorry, the attendance policy.
Attendance policy. Yeah. Okay, this will be amendment? So we're going to amend,
the
okay.
motion, yeah.
Need to amend the motion.
Yeah. Ron, you want to do that?
I'm not sure how to word this, because I'm,
Just like you did, if you would amend your motion to.
okay, then the motion to change the charter to monthly meetings and a term, let's
Type
see,
1 attendance policy.
attendance policy to third absence, which would take it to type 1. Is that clear enough?
For the record.
I'll
Yes, sir.
second.
Okay, do we have any other discussion?
I do have one citizen who signed up to speak. It's Valerie DeBow.
Okay. Please state your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Valerie DeBow. I'm at 12607 Evans Road. I serve as the chairwoman of the Parks and Athletics Council, and there really probably isn't much to say since Ron pretty much has hit the nail on the hammer on the nail here with the attendance policy. We had discussed briefly that this was going to come up with you guys. And I felt that since we have already started our term and under the conditions that we'd only be serving 4 times out of this term, it would be unfair for the other members to all of a sudden be expected to all of us drop everything to attend monthly. So I agree with what Ron has proposed, and that let it stand, that it takes effect in July, and maybe until the time comes that we just do some called meetings. That's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks a lot. Okay, anything else?
Add, I think that we haven't done a full review of our committees for a while. I think this was really good. I think we need to check in on a more regular basis to assess our committees, and it might be something we want to do maybe this time of year, every year, before we go into budget process, so we can plan, hey, this is not working, or this is working, or I think it would be a good idea to check in with how our committees are working.
Before we vote, I would like to possibly have a workshop prior to one of our upcoming meetings. I was thinking about the Parks Committee, but maybe we could add other committees as well.
Well, a lot of them we've already reviewed, but this one is, and we're working towards looking for new activity for them. So I don't have a problem with that. But the other ones, we've just done that in that last workshop that we had in December. I just think that's a good thing for us to check in more regularly, because we don't need our committees languishing like they have recently. If the people aren't, if they're there and they're not, we've got volunteers who want to serve and we're not making use of these committees, we shouldn't put them through that.
Right.
I would also like to add, I think I'd like to hear from the committees either in our workshop or maybe here at the meeting, at our meeting. Maybe they come and give an annual presentation.
Well,
if that would be
in
very
their
helpful for
charters.
me.
In their charters, every one of them says they should be giving a report to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen at the end of the fiscal year in June. And I've been on this board for 4.5 years, and I have not had those reports presented to us. So I'd like that to be accomplished. I'd like to see that report, even if it's just a 5-minute update of what our goals were, what we accomplished.
Yeah.
But we need something.
Just
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
know. That'd be great.
And the reason I asked about the Parks the Parks Committee having a workshop is there was some discussion at their last meeting about maybe having 2 student members. Somebody threw out the idea of maybe having 2-year terms for them, or one. You bring them in as a junior, they're there as a senior as
Are you
well.
talking about the parks? Because that's what we're talking about for education
Yes.
relations.
And the thing is, with our parks, there's a lot of young people want to use the parks.
Yeah.
So that might be good to get that kind of input. And someone that's on the committee for 1 year and then on the second year as a senior, start as a junior, as a senior, then bring in another person that they can help and kind of get acclimated.
idea.
So
Great idea.
anyways, I think it would be good to have a workshop.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Agree.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to an amendment. So we need to vote on that. All in
Yeah.
favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes, noes. Let the record show the motion's been approved on the amendment. Now we need to vote on the
Main
motion
motion.
itself, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second on that, and so all in favor vote yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Let the record show that the motion has been approved with an amendment. Okay, next will be the approval of the revised community grant policy and application. It'll be Trevor as well.
While I did prepare the board report, the recommendation, the proposal really was prepared by Vice Mayor Pavlin.
I'll speak to it. This is something we already talked about in April, and I kind of was so happy to get done with the part where you guys approved it. I kind of put it in a file and put it up and realized, oh my goodness, I better get on top of this because I don't want to have to go through what we've gone through the last couple of years. You've been spared.
I appreciate that.
It was a difficult process and a tedious process and not always clear to me. And so when I was looking through our community grant policy, and I started looking at other communities' grant policies, which I get a newfound respect for when we ask staff to go see what other communities do, because it is not crystal clear. And it's about reading what they do and then trying to figure out how to fit it into what we do. But after a lot of research, I came down to looking at our grants and separated them into a community event grant and a needs grant, and kind of put some more teeth into what it is we're looking to accomplish. Sometimes I feel like we might fund something that doesn't really benefit all but 3 families, and that's a lot of money. $1,000 to me is a lot of money. It can go to a seed grant for an event, a small event for somebody. We need to make sure that all of our money is working for the community to the greatest extent possible. So that's kind of what drove this. You'll see that there were some changes made to the community events and community needs. I tried to stick very close to the current application, just added some verbiage to make sure that there was some, we were delineating between the needs and community grants. And so that's.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to look at this?
Well, I'll make the motion. I move to approve the revised community grant policy and application.
And I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say yes.
Well, can I just make, now
Oh, you want
that I've
discussion now?
explained that to
Okay.
you, now I'll have discussion. There is one part on the items to be submitted with the application, that last sheet. A representative of your organization may be requested to attend a community grant workshop with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen on the evening of Thursday, April 25th, 2019. I'm proposing that we insert maybe a working committee, and this is what I want to ask your guys' opinion on. We never score these. We don't use a rubric to score these. I would love to have some staff, and maybe Sue Stoll is very skilled in this and understands grant policies and all that. If we could put together maybe one board member, which I'd be happy to volunteer, and a couple of staff, and work through and score these grants applications, so that we have a better idea of what they're asking for, if it's really fitting the needs of what our grants are, the spirit of our grants. So,
Question for you. So in that scoring, Vice Mayor, would the rest of BOMA still be able to read the grants themselves in case we decide we score it differently than what the folks that you're proposing scored?
well, that's my question to you. How do you guys want to handle that?
I would prefer to read them all and score them myself,
Okay,
just me personally.
yeah.
But I can only speak for me.
Well, I think that committee would be a great advisory to us because a lot of times myself, Scott, Ron, Drew, we may not know really much about that particular one, and with Sue's expertise, I think that we would learn, you know, a little bit more about it, and it would help us make a decision.
Okay.
Maybe both?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That'd be helpful.
So now I'm just going to sign up to, I assume that we would like to be working off the same rubric.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
just making sure.
I thought that was a loaded question. I'm like, is this a...
I'll work with Sue. I'll work with Sue to see if we can develop. I developed one last year, a loose one last year. So and Sue had gotten a chance to review that. So hopefully that one kind of stands test time because this thing's wearing me out. All right, just wanted to ask you what you guys thought about that. That's all I had.
Okay. And so we do have a motion, and we have a second, and we've had discussion. So all in favor, vote yes.
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 Yes. Let the record show that the revised policy has been approved. Okay, next will be approval of the First Amendment to agreement between the Town of Farragut, Tennessee, and Redflex Traffic Systems, Inc. for an automated photo enforcement program.
Mayor, the Town of Farragut and Redflex entered into an agreement back in 2009 for Redflex to monitor 3 different intersections that we have here in the Town of Farragut for photo enforcement. And in March of last year, we updated that agreement for I think a 5-year contract. And part of that agreement stipulated that we could add some intersections to monitor. We looked at 2, and then the board at that meeting asked to look at 1 more, which was the northbound approach at Campbell Station Road and Kingston Pike. We failed to add that approach to our agreement. And so what this is doing is adding that approach to the agreement to say that we can indeed look at adding an approach at that intersection, as well as the intersection at Kingston Pike and Smith Road, and this would be the eastbound direction, Kingston Pike, along Kingston Pike, there at Smith Road. This does not change any other part of the agreement other than adding that to it. And Hope Ball is here from Redflex. If you have any questions of Hope and Redflex, we did have an engineer look at both of those intersections, and our engineering firm has stated that both would qualify for photo enforcement. So at this time, we would recommend approval of the First Amendment to the automated traffic enforcement program amendment with Redflex Traffic Systems.
I'd like to move to approve the First Amendment to the agreement between the Town of Farragut and Redflex Traffic Systems for an automated photo enforcement program.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah, I have some comments and some discussion concerning. First of all, I was the one that brought up the idea of looking at Kingston Pike and Campbell Station in northbound, because I've witnessed an awful lot of cars going through the red light heading north, and I think part of the problem, and it's justified by this report because of the amount of accidents and so forth, but I think that light heading north, the green light, is too short. Often I've seen 8 or 10 cars lined up, and that light, and you're going uphill, and that light turns green, and only 4, maybe for lucky 5 cars get through, and people get frustrated and they try to run it, and run the yellow light and get caught, and it's just very dangerous. And I know the study we did on the timing of our lights and so forth is in effect and going into effect in 2017. But on this one page, it says at the end, given these parameters that were reevaluated and reprogrammed 2017, operations should be up to date and the signals operating efficiently. I agree we should have the Redflex work on the northbound. I'm in agreement on that, but I'd like to go back and visit the timing of that northbound green light. I think if we could add 5 or 10 seconds, it doesn't have to be 15 or 30, but just enough to get another 4 or 5 cars through there, I think would save a lot of probably tickets and possible accidents, and maybe keep somebody from getting seriously hurt. But too many cars are trying to run that light because not enough cars are getting through.
Yeah, I agree, and I've been stuck at that light and like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Because the
I've
four
been
cars
tempted.
go through. Is that something where you have to do a traffic study to figure out what's going on, or how?
I'll let Daryl answer this.
We already have counts there.
Okay,
Our consultant has modeled that as best they can based on the counts.
okay.
Considering the volumes that we have there, it operates pretty efficiently. I'm aware of what you're talking about. It is a fairly short green phase for the northbound movement. It's one of those things, when you have the kind of volumes that we have there, it becomes very volatile. If anything is a little higher than the original count, or if, for that matter, a pedestrian can cross, triggering a need to correct the timing over the next 2 or 3 cycles, and you can get a backup from it. We see the same thing at Campbell Station and Grigsby Chapel and Parkside. If a pedestrian crosses there during rush hour, you're going to see a problem for a little while. It takes a little while to clear and to catch up on your phases.
Wow.
This signal is tied to all of the signals to the east, which includes Linden Welch Way, Brooklawn, and Concord Road, so that they're all three working together. And when anything happens that creates a need for additional seconds there,
It's a domino effect.
it's a domino effect, and it takes a little while for it to catch back up. And I think sometimes that's what you're seeing when you get caught there and you watch a 4-second green. It's probably trying to catch up from some other thing that's happened.
Well, I know a lot of cars southbound on Campbell Station that are turning east. They're trying to get through there too, and that by the time that last car gets through, that green light heading northbound has already been a second or two, and now all of a sudden it even shortens that period to where cars can get through safely. It's a crazy intersection, I know, but it just seems like the northbound green is just way too short. So
Well, it is when I'm making that movement.
But I agree with the observation that Alderman Pinchuk made. I have seen a fair number of folks contributing to Farragut by running through that light and the camera shooting off. And so I still think it's a problem. I don't know if there's another mechanism that we can use. I don't know if the price of the tickets can be increased. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just trying to figure out other means. I think it's last one I paid, and I've paid my fair share, I think about $50, which is now about a tank of gas, depending on what you drive. And so I'm wondering, is the ticket price, does that need to be increased? Might that deter folks trying to go through the cameras if the timing of the lights can't be changed? Or I'm looking to the board to see if there's another idea that you might have, because it's a problem. Especially at that intersection, I drive it 2 or 3 times a day, and I usually see at least 2 folks weekly getting. Sometimes it's me getting my picture taken. So, I'm just throwing that out there, and maybe we need to do a workshop on it. I don't know.
I'm not for increasing the fine myself. I think $50 is. I think that gets the message out there. It's just so many different people were traveling through there. I was just hoping there was a solution by adding a few seconds to the green light, but if that's not possible, and that's what you're saying, Darrell.
Anytime you add seconds to one movement, you're taking it from other movements, and the idea is to try to balance it out just based on counts standard counts.
Will our new traffic light system that we'll be putting in, will that be a little bit more flexible?
Should be a little more flexible, more adaptive.
Okay.
That might be the solution, is waiting to see if that solves the problem. I'm just keeping notes here. We have Campbell Station Road, Kingston Pike intersection. We have one at the southbound, northbound, and eastbound. We don't have a problem westbound or have we ever analyzed the westbound? The reason why I'm asking is I'm not camera crazy, but that is basically the heart of our town, and we are working on becoming trying to be a walkable community. People blowing off red lights tends to deter walkability. So we've got 3 of them covered. Had we looked at that third one at all?
I'm sorry,
that
I didn't
fourth
miss
one?
what intersection you were talking about.
Campbell Station and Kingston
Oh,
Pike.
the one we're talking about currently,
Yeah.
okay.
We have southbound, northbound, and eastbound covered. It doesn't look like we have westbound covered.
I think at most places, and Hope could probably give us a better explanation of this, but at most places they talk about the halo effect, and that you don't necessarily have to do every single approach, because hopefully people see that that's, it's signed,
Yep.
it's a photo enforcement here, and they get the picture. They may not realize that it's not
On that lane.
on that.
Yeah.
So that's probably the reason why we have not looked at it
Okay.
at this point.
Okay. Just a thought to keep in the back of our heads if we see a problem there.
It's the fine amounts, do we?
The state does.
We,
the state.
we set the fine amount.
Okay.
Oh, do we? I thought the state did.
Now I have to go back at state law and see if there's a maximum that they allow us to do,
I thought that was.
but
yeah.
certainly $50 is the fine that we've had in place since 2009.
Okay, thank you.
I think getting a ticket in the mail, I don't care how much it is, like crud.
It doesn't stop me. I mean, like, here's my contribution. I'll keep going. That's just me personally. I mean,
I get calls from those people getting those tickets, so
Yeah,
I know it's getting their attention.
Yeah, I had one from a gentleman in Meigs County.
Oh,
For the love of Pete. Oh,
And he proceeded to tell me how he comes up here every weekend to shop on Saturdays, and that his wife got a ticket, and he didn't think that was fair, and that he was considering no longer shopping in the Turkey Creek area because of our red light camera. And so we chatted about it a little bit and agreed to disagree about the reasoning for them as far as safety. And
sure.
and we had a nice chat, but that was an interesting phone call from somebody actually in 10 Mile.
Yeah.
It's the town he's from.
I have nothing else.
Okay, so then we have a motion and a second, and all in favor vote yes?
yes.
Yes. Okay, let the record show that the motion has been approved. Okay, next will be the approval of Amendment 1 to T-Dot agreement for improvements at Watt Road, Kingston Pike intersection.
Yes, this is more or less a housekeeping measure. It is an amendment to our original agreement with the Tennessee Department of Transportation for improvements at Watt Road and the Kingston Pike intersection. The purpose of that project is to reassign lanes on Watt Road, as well as to provide pedestrian connections, pedestrian crossings of Kingston Pike. That project, we've been working on it for several years. As time has gone by, the project has grown considerably in cost, to the point that back last year, we requested additional funding through the TPO for the construction phase. We requested $370,000 total in STP and local funds, which the town's share of that is 20% of that is $74,000. Now, this amendment is just to add that additional funding to the construction phase so that TDOT can go ahead and let the project.
I'm going to
Recommends approval.
move for approval of Amendment 1 to the T-Dot agreement for improvements to the intersection of Kingston Pike at Watt Road.
I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I have
Any discussion?
just a real quick question. Looking at the funding sources, what does STP SIP stand for?
That is the spot safety funding. Let me get over to that. That is, it's 80% federal and 20% state. It's intended for, it's kind of a discretionary fund that TDOT administers.
Okay.
when they see a problem with an intersection on a state route or an interstate intersection or interchange, they are allowed to use that funding.
Okay. And what,
That's something that was approved by TDOT a few years ago when we requested it.
what about the LSTBG? What is that? I'm getting an education here.
Okay, that is Surface Transportation Block Grant
Okay,
funding. The L is the local portion of that.
okay. Thank you.
This qualifies because it is Kingston Pike, which is State Road. Okay, any other discussion?
Thank you, Darrell. It's always good to know what these funding sources mean, so I appreciate that.
Okay,
I have nothing else.
Nothing else. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, vote yes.
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 Let the record show that the motion has been approved. Okay, next will be, we have four ordinances to consider tonight. First one will be a public hearing, and it will be the second reading, okay, of ordinance 19-01, an ordinance to amend the text of the Farragut zoning ordinance, ordinances 8616, as amended pursuant to authority granted by Section 13-4-201, Tennessee Code annotated, by amending the Chapter 4, General Provisions and Exemptions, Section 20, Parking and Loading, Subsection A, Part 3, number of parking spaces required, provide for new bicycle parking standards.
This ordinance basically modifies our current provisions for bicycle parking to put them basically in line with vehicular parking requirements, so that there is more clarity and more predictability in our provisions, and really, frankly, more logic. It addresses kind of the use demand issue that our previous provisions really didn't address, with just a blanket one space per 5,000 square feet of gross floor area. And we've also included in this ordinance some language about the types of bicycle parking facilities that we would consider to be appropriate, and then where they need to be placed and how they need to be installed as part of the site plan review and approval process. So this was unanimously recommended for approval by the Planning Commission in December and was approved on first reading, and the staff recommends approval on second reading. There have been no changes to the ordinance since first reading.
Do I have a motion to approve on the second reading?
I'll move to approve the ordinance 19-01 on second reading.
Second.
Discussion? No changes, then I have a motion and a second. All in favor, vote yes.
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 Okay, let the record show that ordinance 19-01 has been approved on the second reading. Okay, next will be ordinance 19-02, an ordinance to delete in its entirety subpart A, General Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, and Article 5, Boards, Committees, and Commissions, Division 2, Personnel Committee of the Farragut Municipal Code.
Mayor, at our last meeting, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen approved Resolution 19-02, which dissolved both the Personnel Committee and the Economic Development Advisory Committee, with the Personnel Committee being part of the Code of Ordinances of the town. We also have before you Ordinance 1902 on second reading, which would eliminate the Personnel Committee from the Code of Ordinances in the town of Farragut. So this is a simple, just second reading to approve Ordinance 1902 on second reading.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve ordinance 19-02 on the second reading?
Move to approve.
Okay, do we have anyone signed in to speak?
No, sir.
We do not, okay. If not, then I'll ask for a roll call vote by the board.
Who made the second on that? I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, Alderman Meyer,
Yes.
Alderman Pinchuk,
Yes.
Alderman Pavlin,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Okay, let the record show the approval of ordinance 19-02 on the second reading. Okay, we have a first reading of ordinance 19-05, It's an ordinance to amend Appendix A, zoning, Chapter 4, general provisions and exceptions, Section 2, administration and enforcement, Part C, Farragut Board of Zoning Appeals with the Farragut Municipal Code. Insert item 6, attendance. Trevor?
This ordinance is in follow-up to the change to the committee attendance policies. Because the Board of Zoning Appeals has a portion in the code, we would need to amend the ordinance and simply insert the language of their type attendance policy. That is item 6.
Move to approve ordinance 19-05.
Okay, we have any discussion?
I have none.
I have none.
I sit on this board, or if I sit on this committee, can I still vote? It's going to affect me, but it's just attendance. So
We have in the past.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1905 on the first reading. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote on that as well by the board.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Let the record show that approval of ordinance 19-05 on the first reading. Okay, next will be ordinance 19-06, ordinance to amend the capital investment program and the state street aid fund budget for the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget, passed by ordinance 18-06.
Yes, sir. The first part of this is the capital investment program, and this $36,000 is requested. It reflects the additional funds that are needed for the Watt Road and Kingston Pipe project that we talked about earlier. The second portion is the state street aid fund. It's for the resurfacing program, and in years past, in hopes to receive better bids, the resurfacing contract has provided a more flexible and longer construction season. Due to this change, the construction of the town streets spans multiple fiscal years, and in fiscal year 18 there was a balance of $854,624, so that amount will need to be moved into fiscal year 19. So the budget will be amended from $500,000 to $1,354,624. And your motion is to approve ordinance 19-06 on first reading.
Okay.
Approve ordinance 19-06 on first reading.
Second. Any discussion? None. Okay. We have a motion and a second. I will ask for a roll call vote on this as well.
Alderman Pavlin.
Yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Yes.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Okay, that concludes that. Just see town administrator's report.
I have nothing to report tonight, Mayor.
Okay, and so we don't have anything for Tom Held to report tonight. So he's not here. So the time is approximately 7:55 p.m. and January 24th, 2019. Farragut Board and Mayor and Alderman is now adjourned.
Can't get used to that.